All right, good morning, 7th and 8th grade. We're going to get started today reading another chapter of our book. Last week we sort of just previewed and talked about a little bit of everything as far as comprehension strategies. Today we are going to really focus on making text connections. So I was able to pick up this anchor chart that we had in the classroom. So we're going to think about making connections. Text to self. Is this similar to my life? How is it different? Text to text. Is what we're reading similar to other things I read? Is it different? And then some text to world connections. What does this remind me of in the real world? How is this similar or different than things that happen in the real world? So we're going to think about text connections that we can make to the book that we're reading that's called Deadly Design. So I want to just recap what we read so far. So in the book, there are two main characters that we've met, and they are supposed to be twin brothers, but they were born 2 years apart, and we know that they were made in more of a science way, so their parents could not have babies the natural way, so they made two boys and they had them at different times. Their names are Kyle and Connor. Kyle is the younger brother and Connor is the older one. So while we are reading this next part of the book, we want to think about text connections that we can make. So we're getting started. Even in that stupid getup, he looks handsome, Emma says, staring at Connor's photo displayed on the wall with all the photos of the graduating class in their caps and gowns. It's not a very big graduating class. Rose Hill High School has about 600 students in the entire school. Pretty typical for a small town in Kansas. I can't wait to see him on stage giving his speech. I don't say anything as students rush past us, anxious to step out of the frigid air conditioning and into the warm spring, almost summer. I'm meeting Connor at your house after school, Emma says. You should let me drive you home. Doesn't Connor have track practice? She shakes her head, her long blonde hair brushing against her shoulders. The coach doesn't want Connor worn out for the meet tomorrow, so no practice today. We're going to hang out for a while and then grab some dinner. So some connections that I could make, and I think that some of you could make, is that he talks about how he has a really small graduating class. We could talk about the idea that in our school, their class sizes are small. So compared to other middle schools, your 7th grade class as a whole is rather small. In a lot of middle schools, there are multiple sections of 7th grade. So there may be 6 classes that each have 20 kids in them, where we only have 18 or 19 kids in 2 sections of 7th grade. Of course they are. I love having Emma around all the time. I love hearing her laugh as Connor tickles her on the sofa. I love watching him whisper in her ear right before he kisses her, and my dad tells them to get a room and Mom tells them not to. I love her blue eyes, I love her lips, and the pink lip gloss she lightly coats with them. I bet it has a flavor, cotton candy or bubble gum. I could ask her, but I won't. It's bad enough to be head over heels for your brother's girl, but I refuse to be that pathetic. So about that ride home. Emma never offers me rides, usually because she's too busy with her after-school activities. Plus, I only live a few blocks from school. Why? I ask. I want to talk to you, she says. It's important. It better be, I say, not because being alone with her in a confined space could be torture, but because riding in her car is definitely dangerous. Really dangerous. How many of you could make a connection to maybe getting in the car with someone who's not a very good driver? We follow the dwindling mob of high school students out to the parking lot, where most of the parking spaces are occupied by hand-me-down 4-doors or old pickup trucks. Emma's car takes up half a parking space at most. Get in, she says, unlocking the doors with the remote. I hesitate, looking at the dull green coffin on wheels. I think I'll walk. Please, she begs. I promise it's safe. It even has airbags. Are you sure? The smart car is tiny, and I can't help imagining a dozen circus clowns crammed into it. Does it really have airbags, or does a whoopee cushion pop out of the steering wheel? Don't insult my car. I love my car, and I love the environment. I open the door and get in. It's roomier than I expected. Your mom said you might not go to graduation, Emma says once my seatbelt is buckled. I half expect the door locks to engage, to trap me in the car for the conversation I don't want to have. Connor needs you there. You're his brother, his twin. This is really important to him and your parents. You and my parents talked about this? Just your mom. Then why doesn't she talk to me? Emma hesitates. You know your mom doesn't like conflict. What conflict? My mom and I never fight. You don't talk that much either, and she doesn't want to push you away. She doesn't want you spending even less time with the family. I eat supper with them every night, I say, trying not to sound pissed, but I kind of am. I watch movies with them on the weekend. I let you and Connor drag me around. Sometimes, she says, I'm 16. Eating dinner with my parents is as social as I'm supposed to be. Besides, I have other interests. So none of you are 16, but I'm sure you can relate to maybe not wanting to spend as a lot of time with your parents. Maybe some of you are like, I'll have dinner with you and that's about it. Some of you may really enjoy spending time with your families, especially right now during this quarantine. A lot of you may only have your family to spend time with. I have interests. You mean video games? How can I explain to her that video games aren't just games to me? I'm good at them. I'm real good at them. Online players beg to have me on their teams. They schedule their playing times around mine because no one can kick ass on Call of Duty like I can. But compared to Connor's history of athletic domination, who gives a crap if my kill-to-death ratio is off the charts? On a side note, Mark, my husband, is playing so much Call of Duty right now, I would be happy to throw that out the window. So I could definitely make a personal connection to this about Call of Duty and all of the crazy lingo that goes with it. And I wonder how many of you can make some connections to Call of Duty and maybe how much you're playing or how many people you know that are playing. I don't want to make you mad, Emma says. I just want everyone to be happy. I scoff as a giant pickup truck pulls up next to us. Will you at least think about going? She asks. How can I make her understand why I don't want to go? Yeah, we may be twins, but we're not twins in the traditional sense. Even if it weren't for the age difference, Connor and I still wouldn't look exactly alike. He has six-pack abs and giant biceps, and he's super smart and super athletic. He's super everything, and I'm good at video games. Why don't you want to go? I look at her like it's a stupid question, because it is a stupid question. I'm serious, and don't tell me it's your pride, because that's crap. You're not supposed to be your brother. You're two different people, and that's good. Besides, if you and Connor were carbon copies of each other, how on earth would I be able to choose between you? She gives me a coy little smile. Do you have any lemon juice, I ask? I just found a paper cut on my finger, and I'd love to pour something sour into it. I just meant that you're both special people. Connor's like my Clark Kent, my Superman. He's perfect. Emma's eyes stare out over the dashboard, but I know from the way she's smiling, her face beaming, that she's seeming more than after-school traffic. He's the most perfect person in the world, and we're perfect together. She looks at me and she's so happy. And I'm happy for you. I really am. And you, she says, you're like James Dean. James who? Dean. James Dean. He's the quiet but tough guy. He doesn't need anybody else, doesn't care about what anybody else thinks. He's like a bad boy. She gives me a sideways glance. I consider this and then nod in agreement. Yep, that's me. Bad to the bone. Oh yeah, tell me something bad that you've done. I think for a minute, but I don't have to think for long because I've been so notoriously bad. Last week, I was playing Call of Duty online, and it wasn't just me. I was playing on a team. I had guys relying on me. And I realized that I'd been chewing the same piece of gum for over 2 hours. 2 hours? She was already amazed. I couldn't leave the game. I couldn't let my guys down, but it was disgusting, like chewing on a rubber band. So you know what I did? What did you do? Tell me. I took it out of my mouth. Uh-huh. I stuck it on the nightstand. That's right, I did not put it in the trash. I should have. It was only a few feet away, but no. I stuck it there, and guess what? What? I left it there for a whole week. I nod and she laughs, breaking character. I better arrange an intervention, she says. You're too wild for your own good. Yep, that's me. I turn up the volume on the radio and she turns it down again. So graduation? Graduations are boring. They read a bunch of names, the choir sings a couple of sappy songs, and the band plays. What about his speech? He's valedictorian, and that's a big deal. I know it's a big deal, I say. Everything in his life is a big deal. He doesn't need me around to make it any bigger. But he does. She reaches over and grabs my arm. It's not your fault that you were born second, and it's not his fault that he was born first. He cares about you, and he really wants you there. It's important. We stop at an intersection, and she looks at me, and I can't help but wonder what she sees. I'm just 2 years younger than him, but I'm just too lazy to go to the gym. Think about it. She makes a left turn onto the street where I live. What about the state track meet? Now she's really pushing it. I suppose Mom mentioned that to you too, or was it Dad? Well, like I told him, I'm busy Saturday. If Connor's upset that I'm not there, if he wants to know what up my butt, you can tell him I've got about a half a dozen medical students in there. She growls, tightening her hands around the steering wheel. It's his last meet, so I'm supposed to go cheer him on while he breaks his own record? It's also his birthday. We're going out to dinner afterward. The car slows and Emma pulls in front of my house. She places her hand on my arm. If you won't do it for him, do it for me. Why does she have to put it that way? Am I that transparent? Can she tell that there isn't anything I wouldn't do for her? Okay, so that's the end of the chapter. I think we've made some good text to self connections. I really talked about Call of Duty, and we talked about the class size. We could make some connections with that. I want to challenge you guys to make some text to world connections. Does this remind you of anything in the real world? Is it similar or different than things that have happened in the real world? So what are some things that you could make a connection to that's happened or is happening in the world? Some text to text connections. We want to think maybe about the books that we've already read. We could think about the things that we read either together. You could think about Freak the Mighty. You could think about the idea that the two characters were so different than each other, similar to how Kyle and Connor are very different, and making a prediction. Maybe they're going to become friends, just like in Freak the Mighty, where our two main characters did become friends. But we want to think about, I want to challenge you, like I said, to think about text to world connections. So can we make a connection to something that's happening in the outside world? So when we meet on Wednesday in our Google Hangout, I want to hear if you've made any kind of connection text to world. And I also want to maybe read another chapter and practice working on these text connections together. Lastly, Common Lit, there are assignments assigned to each of you in that website. You can go ahead. They started today. I did make a due date on Friday, so we want to make sure we're working on them throughout the day, and you're also wanting to work on any iReady lessons that you have available. If you need any help, please feel free to reach out to me. Your parents can reach out to me on Class Tag, or you can send me a message on Google Classroom. Make sure that it's appropriate, as everyone can read it. And in those Google Classrooms that Miss Turner created, Mr. Goodwin, Mr. Sheehan, and Miss Bonnie are all administrators on that, so they are able to see anything that you're writing. So please make sure that you are being appropriate. All right, guys, I will see you on Wednesday for our Google Hangout. I'm super excited to see you and to actually see your face, and I hope you guys are having a great day so far. All right.